How Matthijs de Ligt will fit in at Manchester United. Today we're going to be looking at the formation, the tactics and the role that de Ligt will have in Erik ten Hag's Manchester United. If you are new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video. But anyway, let's get this party started. Matthijs de Ligt came through in the Ajax academy. Ajax are renowned for creating players that are capable of playing multiple roles in multiple positions that are very comfortable on the ball. But Matthijs de Ligt made his debut at 16 years old because of his sheer size and power for his age. A player that captained Ajax, and not only to a European final against Manchester United in the Europa League, but also got them to a semi-final in the Champions League with a massive goal against Juventus. But before we dive into how he's going to fit in at Manchester United, let's first look at his kind of role and his style as a footballer. Matthijs de Ligt is a commanding central defender. Schooled at the Ajax academy since he was 9 years old, de Ligt is a composed player in possession. Right-footed, but a good passer off both feet, de Ligt is able to play a wide range of progressive passes, although he prefers to keep the ball on the ground. Defensively, de Ligt is fantastic. A great reader of the game, aggressive when tackling, and a strong physical presence. De Ligt is also pretty quick. This makes him comfortable at defending the wide areas and the space in behind. His recovery speed and aggression make him happy to step out of defence and make challenge against players receiving with their back to goal. Captaining Ajax at 18 years old, de Ligt is a natural born leader, a trait that can be overlooked but should not be underestimated. Strong leaders rally teammates and guide them through adversity. What's more, de Ligt is experienced playing in a variety of tactical setups from huge European clubs like Ajax, Juventus and Bayern Munich, as well as the Dutch national team. On the right or the left of a centre-back pairing, de Ligt has also played across a back three, shining wherever he's been deployed. So we understand a little bit more about Matthijs de Ligt in terms of his profile, but let's dive into his first spell at Ajax. Under Erik ten Hag, Matthijs de Ligt played as a right centre-back in a 4-2-1-3. This was the system that got Ajax to the Champions League semi-final. Wide wingers, full-backs that were involved in the final third, either on the inside or the outside, but they built in a back three that was created by Frenkie de Jong dropping either to the left of Blind or to the right of de Ligt. It was obviously very fluid in its nature, but what you usually see is Matthijs de Ligt being at the base of the first diamond. When we're looking at football and philosophy, the Johan Cruyff methodology of playing with diamonds, which gives you passing options and the ability to play through, you'd frequently see that at Ajax with diamonds all over the pitch. Not only did this allow Ajax to play through the lines, but players would be able to rotate positions knowing that the structure was there. Matthijs de Ligt was a little bit more restricted at Ajax, you'd say, obviously coming through, still young, 19 years old when he scored the goal against Juventus, as we mentioned previously, that got Ajax to the semi-final of the Champions League. So he's a little bit more restricted. So in terms of ball progression, what you generally see is Matthijs de Ligt finding Frenkie de Jong and then Frenkie de Jong carrying out from the back. Frenkie de Jong very much had that in his game, in his locker. He'd pick the ball deep and just drive through midfield, one of the most aesthetically pleasing players. But de Ligt very much playing that kind of limited role, getting the ball, winning it back and then playing wide. I think one thing you'd say about this 11 is there's not much physicality there. And that was Matthijs de Ligt's role. He was the physical guy in the team. He had to dominate from corners, from set pieces, but also from open play. In terms of off the ball, this Ajax team was very good from a pressing perspective. They squeezed super high in very much a narrow 4-2-3-1. But I think the big thing for Manchester United and their pressing is they've been pretty poor under Erik ten Hag. But with, of course, Matthijs de Ligt at the back, it will allow Manchester United, as Ajax did in this setup and scheme, to press a lot higher at the pitch, knowing that not only you've got Matthijs de Ligt that can go man for man with the opponent, squeezing into that midfield area if the opponent's dropping off, but also you're going to play a higher line, knowing that Matthijs de Ligt's got that speed. At Ajax, Matthijs de Ligt was a lot more slender, a little bit more dynamic in that sense, and of course Manchester United could go down that route of making a little bit less physically strong, making more dynamic on the turn. Again, the Premier League is a very, very tough league to come into in terms of pace, in terms of speed, so maybe Matthijs de Ligt leaning up at Old Trafford could be a really good thing. Getting back to that Ajax days where he's a lot leaner in his body shape and was a bit more mobile on the turn. But again, that's not saying that he's not mobile now. He was just a lot more mobile when he was 18 years old. I think we've all had that problem through our lives. Our peak days are probably behind us, well, me especially. Matthijs de Ligt then joined Juventus for £75 million and learnt the Italian art of defending off Bonucci and Chiellini. What an apprenticeship. There's parts of his game right now that you can see is very Italian. Sometimes when facing a pacey player, what Matthijs de Ligt will do, instead of committing himself and diving in, he'll drop off and wait for his teammates to come in and win the ball back. That is classic Italian defending. Of course, one of the greatest apprenticeships in European football. At Juventus, de Ligt became comfortable playing within a back three in all three positions. That tactically is very, very good. That means for Manchester United that he could play left centre-back, centre-back or right centre-back in a number of different shapes and systems. I think one of the big things for Matthijs de Ligt, he's got coverage all across that defensive line, which means he's comfortable defending on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. That's something that some young defenders don't do. They stick to playing right centre-back or left centre-back, which means in certain situations, as football is such a fluid game, that they're going to be defending in areas that are not very comfortable at. For example, what do you do if you're right-footed and you're defending the left touch line? You know, naturally you want to show the opponent inside, where actually it's probably better to show them on the outside, their weaker foot. As we know, there's so many inverted attackers. But Matthijs de Ligt had a great apprenticeship in terms of defending at Juventus and then joined Bayern Munich for over €60 million. These fees that I mentioned are pretty big. Of course, Matthijs de Ligt did win the European Golden Boy at Ajax. And we've got to remember that he was one of the best young defenders on the planet. And he's gone for a lot of money. Man United, signing him for what they bought him for, got themselves a cracking deal in my opinion. But let's move to last season. Bayern Munich, under Thomas Tuchel, got to the Champions League semi-final. Bayern very much playing a 4-2-3-1, with Matthijs de Ligt partnering Eric Dyer. I know, a bit of a strange combination, but it worked to get Bayern Munich so far in the competition. One thing you can definitely say about Matthijs de Ligt now versus his time at Ajax is he's a lot better on the ball. In terms of his passes, as we mentioned in the player profile, he likes to keep the ball flat. What that means in a sense is if a striker's kind of dropping off the line, instead of it being a loopy ball into the chest or into the knee or, you know, somewhere where it's difficult control, what you'll genuinely see Matthijs de Ligt do is power it into the striker's feet. Along the ground, daisy cutter, allowing the forward to take a first touch and go. Whether that's out wide or to the central area, you know, similar Matthijs de Ligt does fizz the balls out to the right-hand side. This will be an asset for Manchester United because it will allow them to get further up the pitch. For Bayern Munich, of course, you know, there's a lot of play with fullbacks moving inside, so that first ball progressed the play quite well. Something Matthijs de Ligt does with good accuracy and good penetration. If you look at his statistics as well, from his time at Ajax to Bayern Munich, all the numbers have improved that you'd want to improve in terms of his pass accuracy, his pass completion rate, passes into the final third, progressive passes and forward passes. All these numbers have started to improve, showing that Matthijs de Ligt is really growing as a footballer. The other thing I like about him as well, with his pass accuracy around 95%, is he's not afraid to play that sideways or backwards passes if it's needed. We're kind of obsessed a little bit with being vertical at the moment, but sometimes the best pass is to your teammate, to allow the opposition to be pulled over to one side of the pitch and then play down the other side, moving them around. That is positional play, or that's true positional play. And the last thing I wanted to mention about his passing at Bayern Munich is Matthijs de Ligt isn't afraid of playing that ball over the top. He's got a lot of power with his passing, so if the opposition's back line is coming up, he isn't afraid to sling a ball over the top for either the centre forward or one of the wide players to run in behind. Again, that'll be a massive asset for Manchester United, considering the pace that they've got up front. So we spoke about on the ball, again, big improvements from his time at Ajax through Juventus to Bayern Munich. But let's talk about off the ball now from a defensive perspective. Matthijs de Ligt is a player, as we mentioned previously, that's very happy jumping up the pitch when the opponents have the ball. You know, in pressing moments, de Ligt will be super high. This is a massive thing for Manchester United, who've struggled, knowing that Matthijs de Ligt can cover the channel in behind him or the space behind him, behind his other centre-back partner if he's drawn into midfield. That will allow United to press high. That's going to be such a big thing. In terms of one of Matthijs de Ligt's biggest strengths, it's dealing with direct passes. Not only has he got the recovery pace and power to deal with the space in behind the defence, but with direct long balls as well that you frequently see in the Premier League, that we saw Bayern Munich have to deal with this season, he's very good at winning that first contact. He's got the anticipation to read the flight of the ball. He positions himself well to put the ball back, either heading it into midfield to a teammate or simply knocking it back to Manuel Neuer in behind him. The other part of his game that I quite like as well is he orientates himself well on the ball. He defends technically very, very well. You know, ball's getting played down the left-hand side. His body shape's going to be very good to, you know, get the jump straight away and deal with that ball in behind the defence. But in terms of examples, one example that I'd like to bring up was his performance against Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-final for this season. Of course, Real Madrid grabbed 2 late goals from Joselu, but both were scored on Eric Dyer's side. Matthijs de Ligt had a great game, and he was up against one of the best forwards in European football in Vinicius Jr., and he dealt with him superbly well. The first duel they kind of had was out on the left-hand side, 1v1. This is an area where you'd be kind of afraid for a centre-back to be dealing with a winger or a forward that's going to be in that central area. Matthijs de Ligt defended with aggression, but not only showing him down the line at times and then making covering sliding tackles to kind of win the ball back or it go out to a throw-in, but he was also really aggressive touch tight. If Vinicius was receiving to feet, and let's say Kimmich was a little bit higher up and Sane in the press, was very aggressive on his back, didn't allow him to get turned. The only time in the game where Vinicius Jr. beat de Ligt on the dribble, he took him out. Fouled him, the attacker didn't get past him. But there were many moments, as we mentioned previously, of de Ligt backing off at the right time, allowing Kimmich, Pavlovic or Conrad Lima to get back and win the ball. Again, good Italian defending. Matthijs de Ligt had a defensive masterclass against Real Madrid, made 1 interception, 2 blocks, won 6 out of his 6 tackles, the most on the pitch, made 10 clearances, again, the most on the pitch, and won 9 out of his 12 duels. A top performance against a team that won the European Cup. This is exactly what you want to see a defender at Manchester United achieve. Now let's touch on the build-up, something United have struggled with this season. In terms of Matthijs de Ligt, because of his profile and his tactical flexibility, it means United can be super flexible in build-up. Too many times we've seen United play out the same way under Erik ten Hag and not kind of change up what they're doing. I think with Matthijs de Ligt, it gives you a lot of options in build-up, as we mentioned, with a true 2-ball playing players and 3 players that have played for Ajax previously. United's build-up with 3 players at the back will allow them to overload the opposition's first pressing line. I think from a rotational perspective, we should see a lot of different changes from United. I think number 1, we should see Rashford inside, Luke Shaw holding the wide left. What this means is that either Mainoo could drop into that position to receive the ball as a outside centre-half with the 6 sitting inside, or maybe even Bruno dropping as well, and Diogo Dalot operating on that high line, creating a different build-up structure for the opposition that are going to have to squeeze and press, which means there's more space for the likes of Rasmus Højlund to drop off the line or Marcus Rashford to drop off the line and receive to feet. But that, of course, is de Ligt playing basically as a right-sided centre-back and a back 3 created with the goalkeeper. There's a lot of different variants on that. You know, we could see United building with the 5 attackers, with Mainoo a little bit higher, Diogo Dalot operating a bit deeper, with United building out with what looks like a kind of 3-5 attacking structure, again giving them good variation when playing against presses. And I think that's the big thing with Matthijs de Ligt. He can play that position. Also, you could potentially see him, rotate over to the left-hand side, maybe de Ligt tucking a little bit more, United building in a slightly different way. All this means is United are going to be better playing through the opposition's lines. Let's finish things off talking about this question. Is Matthijs de Ligt suited for Premier League football? I think the answer sits in the 22-23 Champions League quarter-final, where Matthijs de Ligt faced up against Manchester City and Erling Haaland. Haaland has set the precedent for being the best striker in Premier League history already, but Matthijs de Ligt had a cracking battle with him, and you could argue that he bullied Haaland, with his partner Upamecano making the mistakes in the game to allow Haaland to score over the 2 legs. From a defensive perspective, in terms of aerial duels won, Matthijs de Ligt won 6 out of his 7 duels against Haaland and wasn't dribbled past on a single occasion. Matthijs de Ligt has that power, that physicality, but also the pace to deal with one of the best number 9s in European football. We've spoken already about how he dealt with a tricky player in Vinicius Jr., now one of the best strikers. Matthijs de Ligt will be perfect for Manchester United. But anyway, guys, what do you think? Get into the comments below and let me know your thoughts on Matthijs de Ligt's move to Manchester United. I am a big fan of what United are building. I think Ineos have made some good signings so far, and long may it continue. If you are new around here, hit that subscribe button. I've been Statman Dave. See you later.
Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, why not check out some more content on the Statman Dave YouTube channel?